Meteorologists are at a loss to explain what is causing this weather and why it has taken flight to dry.
It is the agenda for the 21st century you're living in today. For a brave new world where everything that you cherished and held true will no longer exist.
Wildfires raging across the southeast, some 36 of them in the region, with the Party Rock fire in North Carolina burning through thousands and thousands of acres. We have a look at this graphic. It's going to show you how the smoke affects air quality in half of North Carolina. You can see how widespread it is. North Carolina, though, isn't alone. All of these states are battling fast-moving flames, including Georgia, where one fire has already burned an area the size of Manhattan, and many activities now banned because of the wildfire threat.
Let's go back to that video from North Carolina of the Party Rock fire. It's consumed more than 3,800 acres across parts of 3 counties and is only 15% contained. Adding to the dry conditions and rugged terrain, you have a region that is not used to dealing with wildfires of this scale.
We've had the blizzard of '93, the flood of '96. This is the worst thing I've ever been involved with.
Cities as far away as Charlotte and Atlanta. Health experts are advising people with respiratory conditions to limit their outdoor activities, but even healthy people can expect irritated eyes and sore throats. And Jenna, Mother Nature is not cooperating. They are predicting a cold front to come in here over the weekend, and that's expected to bring more dry conditions and potentially heavy winds, further spreading the flames. You can see all the smoke behind me across that mountain. That's a fire about 7 to 8 miles behind me, and so the situation continues.
Right now we're on the basically the southwestern part of or southeastern part of the fire, and right now we're putting in some hard line here. And what we have is a crew from New Mexico, and right now what they're doing is they're mopping up. So they're taking out all the hot spots that are along this edge of the fire.
I would say, the special challenge to this fire is that it's been actively burning 24 hours a day, so that the spread of the fire's been spreading all the time. Typical fires usually lay down at night for a period of time. It might only be 1 or 2 hours, but it gives you a little bit of a time where it lays down and you can kind of reset your resources and get them repositioned, where this one just continues to spread.
Moved up to the second floor once the water started coming back up, and been up there on the second floor since about probably 2 a.m.
Lovely road here. Lovely road here. Not so lovely road. Down here. She just drops away. And this, all that rocks out there, all that was underwater. None of that was showing. All out of the water.
I mean, this week, the brightest moon in almost 69 years is lighting up the skies all around the globe, and a lot of people are talking about it. The supermoon has captivated the world's attention. It's also triggering flooding in a preview of sea level rise along the East Coast.
As the world has been looking up to gaze at the extra bright supermoon, those living in South Florida, they're seeing something else. Significant flooding brought on by unusual high tides. Since Monday, streets and parking lots in low-lying neighborhoods have been inundated with ocean water. Experts say the supermoon's stronger gravitational pull is amplifying the seasonal king tide, creating heightened flood risks. Earlier this week, the Weather Service said tidal levels were running about a foot above normal due to the occurrence of the supermoon. a rare astronomical event not seen since 1948. Some say the flooding sparked by the supermoon offers a glimpse of the sea level rise coastal cities like Miami are battling as a result of climate change.
Years ago, it was not this bad.
This is a king tide, this is the highest tide, whatever, but we never had this growing up. This is water level rise.
Underneath water in the next 30 years, so it is a concern.
Scientists say flooding incidents in Miami Beach have increased at least 400% in the last 10 years. To combat the problem, the city has launched a $400 million project that's begun installing dozens of pumps throughout the city. While the Miami Beach mayor says we're past the point of debating the existence of climate change, Florida's Republican Governor Rick Scott refuses to accept that it's even happening, essentially choosing to ignore the threat that sea level rise can pose.
International direction system. It can detect a mosquito threat and catch it.
Myanmar's army has said as many as 86 people have been killed in the recent escalation of violence in the northwestern Rakhine state. This figure includes 17 security forces and 69 what the government refers to as Rohingya Muslim militants. Security forces moved into the area last month in response to coordinated attacks on 3 border posts, which killed 9 police officers. Although the government says it's trying to beat terrorism, Myanmar security forces have been accused of conducting a violent, heavy-handed approach, which is targeting Rohingyas.
There is a growing wave of local leaders in sanctuary cities across the country saying that they will ignore any deportation orders from President-elect Donald Trump if it comes to that. Proponents of the tougher immigration policy pushing back, including former House Speaker Newt Gingrich, who said this on our run.
President-elect Trump is talking about a very focused effort to get rid of people who are criminals.
We have seen some unusual changes in political scene around the world, particularly in Europe and now in the United States, some in Asia too, based on nationalism and popularism. Under the surface of these kind of changes, we have to look at the fundamental issues, root causes. There have been a lot of economic difficulties, inequality among and between the peoples, injustice, impunities, and those have been prevalent in some parts of the world.
Now, I will admit, coming here tonight wasn't the easiest thing for me. There have been a few times this past week when all I wanted to do was just to curl up with a good book or our dogs and never leave the house again.
I've met with leaders and innovators in the energy industry all across our nation, and I am excited about the path that they are on. America's wind generation has tripled since 2008, and that will continue. and solar generation has increased 30 times over.
We're going to cancel billions and billions of dollars in payments to the United Nations climate change programs and use the money to fix America's environmental infrastructure.
Suffice it to say, Donald Trump is not a big believer in man-made climate change, contrary to the views and data of the vast majority of scientists.
Our plan will end the EPA, which is hey, look, it's all wonderful, but it's a disaster.
That's why the former EPA administrators under Richard Nixon, Ronald Reagan, and George H.W. Bush hammered Trump during the election for pledging to yank the U.S. from the Paris Accords, an international agreement to fight climate change, a move they said, quote, would set the world back decades.
Tonight, a top intelligence official is speaking out, saying aloud what intel officials put out via press release during the election, that a foreign government tried to and eventually did interfere with the U.S. election. Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge has specifics.
Speaking at a Wall Street Journal forum, the NSA director said for the first time publicly Russia was behind the hacks that were deliberate and designed to influence the election.
This was not something that was done by chance. This was not a target that was selected purely arbitrarily. This was a conscious effort by a nation state to attempt to achieve a specific effect.
Admiral Michael Rogers didn't need to mention Russia by name because in early October, the Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper, made that point clear. The U.S. intelligence community is confident, Clapper said in a written statement, that the Russian government directed the recent compromises of emails from U.S. persons and institutions, including from U.S. political organizations. But Rogers' public statement went a long way to strengthening Hillary Clinton's claims about the 55,000 leaked campaign emails.
We've never had a foreign government trying to interfere in our election. We have 17 intelligence agencies, civilian and military, who have all concluded that these espionage attacks, these cyber attacks, come from the highest levels of the Kremlin.
Government investigators have uncovered more evidence that Russian-backed cyber militias who hacked systems to curry favor with President Vladimir Putin used a unique computer code to break into systems undetected.
It had the signatures of the more prolific hacker groups that are operating as cyber militias on behalf of Putin.
Vice President Joe Biden recently told NBC that Putin should expect payback.
He'll know it, and it'll be at the time of our choosing and under the circumstances that have the greatest impact.
We were very cautious in judging him, especially as he wasn't in a political position before. So we cannot tell anything about what he's going to do. But if, let's say if he's going to fight the terrorists, of course we're going to be ally, natural ally in that regard, with the Russians, with the Iranians, with many other countries who wanted to defeat the terrorists.
Russia says it is withdrawing its signature from the founding statute of the International Criminal Court. Moscow signed the Statute of Rome in 2000 but never ratified it. Officials are quoted as saying the Hague-based tribunal is not truly independent and has not lived up to the hopes of the international community.
We do stand on the edge of a great new era.
We built this great industrial powerhouse.
The whole idea of industrial capitalism in the West, government that was going to invest in infrastructure.
It is a time for pathfinders and pioneers.
What happened to the American century?
The share of income that we put into infrastructure has gone down starkly.
If you travel around the country, there's just not that much that's new.
What happened to America's ideal of progress?
All these things that had been established after the Great Depression fell apart.
You'll see that whole streets are just closing down.
A community that's undereducated, underemployed.
Baltimore was a blue-collar town. Now the air quality is wonderful because there's no industry here anymore. It's beyond life.
Detroit had a population of about 2 million people in 1950. It's now a little over 600,000.
Huge percentage of the budget goes to the military. This is an economy that's based to a large degree on killing people.
If you were to cut the military budget in half, we'd have a depression in the United States.
So they're literally working full-time and making poverty wages.
You have 1,600 vacant houses. It's insane.
They said, let's save a few dollars and pump the water in from the Flint River.
Decades and decades of being ignored.
Americans are finding themselves in a desperate situation.
It's a new state. A lot of talented people here, but you will never know because of the reputation we got.
If you're an entrepreneur right now in America, the last thing you want to do is take risks. This is not a world I want to take risks.
America is not the pillar of democracy and freedom that it was once seen to be.
Here we are, naked in front of the world. It's a real tragedy.